Sun Pictures has been entertaining Broome since 1916. The Pearlmaster and entrepreneur Ted Hunter built these picture gardens on the site of a Japanese emporium, which also put on Japanese theatre productions. Broome was a booming outpost with Asian boarding houses, long soup shops, pearl dealers and gambling dens, and Hunter quickly captured the market for new entertainment.
Well, it was really the only, outside of hotels, it was only the real night activity in the town, and Saturday night was always the big night for the movies, and most residents of Broome during that period used to go to the movies.
Well, Sun Pictures is actually a three-sided structure with the screen outside in a beautiful garden setting. The fabrication is corrugated iron, tin roof and jarrah floorboards.
It's the original building, and it's got a great deal of charm.
Since the opening of Sun Pictures, there's always been segregated seating, so it was always according to the race. Now, interestingly enough, they used to have two doorways. The first doorway were for the Europeans and other whites, Japanese and Chinese, and all the children.
This is the entrance non-Indigenous people came through, and we came in behind this side here, behind me. The lights were off, the movie was starting, and then they put us down the back there, right next to the projection. There's a lot of noise from the projection, and also couldn't hear much. Certainly got a good view, and also protection from the cold.
Most of this row was usually reserved for the Fongs. Most nights of the week that the movies were on. Generally on either side was seating for the Asian population.
All the master pearlers, all the worthy Europeans, the medical officers, merchants, all used to sit in cane chairs. Now, interestingly, the cane chairs used to have these little cushions. They had to always be put up every night to make sure there was no centipedes there. Now, none of these people actually arrived till 9 o'clock, but these seats were permanently booked for them.
It was very crowded. There used to be a sort of fencing off area here, just to let us know that we weren't supposed to go beyond that point.
People were allocated their certain areas and you didn't move out of those areas.
I think we got the referendum passed there in 67, and then most of us were allowed to come through the front entrance and pay a fee of about what they call 20 cents, which is 2 bob back in that time.
So it officially opened on the 9th of December 1916 with an English racing drama called Kissing Cup. So that was 1916. Then 1933 was the very first talkie, which is Monte Carlo, starring Jack Buchanan and Jeanette MacDonald.
My parents leased Sun Pictures from 1952 to 1980. My mother used to enjoy films, but my father was not a great movie goer, no. Well, I mean, he didn't look at them. If he thought a film wouldn't be suitable, he wouldn't bring it to Broome. It was as simple as that. He was virtually the town censor, if you will. You know, we saw a lot of action movies and a lot of good old coyotes.
Westerns were very popular.
And we always waited anxiously for a cowboy movie to come through.
And we all barracked for the Indians.
Sun Pictures is probably the only picture theatre in the world subject to tidal flooding.
There was no footpath as we see it here today. That was just basically gravel and dirt, and a lot lower than what it was. And the tide used to come right up here, almost to Tang Wei's Cafe. The guys would come out and take off their shoes and roll up their trousers and carry their ladies across to the cars in the car park.
So the tide used to come through and almost be on the second step of the projection box. There's a few stories that perhaps you could have caught a fish or two out the front.
People would have to sort of wade through very shallow water to the loos.
The reflection from the screen onto the water would get the fish sort of agitated and jump up into the air and splash up on top of the surface.
Yeah, well, every now and again the kids got out of control, and of course my mother would have to keep them in line.
Down the front, throwing Coke cans and sand fights and gravel fights down on the front screen, and getting picked up by Mrs. Haynes and dragged up to the back steps here and getting told off, and getting your parents coming picking you up.
Because all the boys used to sit to one side and all the girls onto the other. And so when the lights are on, it'd be all this. And then as soon as the lights go down, they'd all sneak underneath all the chairs so they can sit next to their girlfriends.
One of the tricks that the kids used to do was with these deck chairs, which were canvas in those days, they would unroll the back and just sit the back resting on the metal frame, so if anyone sat on it, people would fall through and create hilarious laughter around the place.
The odd husband and boyfriend would nip over to the rowie and come back, and watch the main feature.
Some pictures closed only for a very short period of time over a few of the years. Obviously one of them was when the World War was on.
And unfortunately had to close down in 1980 due to the introduction of VHS machines. People just virtually stopped coming to the movies.
It was a bit of a shame to see the place going to rack and ruin, but that was the way it was back in the 80s when TV first came to town.
When we actually resurrected the place again, you can imagine the weeds were about the size of the deck chairs all the way across. The screen was in a terrible condition. You could almost see all the holes through it, and I reckon if you look closely at the stump you could almost see all the white ants holding hands keeping it up. All the canvases were of course ripped, and we had to try and find some of the chairs because they'd sort of gone missing in between that time. So it probably took us about 3 months to get it back on the road.
The one on my right here is the CWG model. It's the same model that we retired back in '97. It was very emotional when I switched her off because she was 45 years old and still going strong. We had one of the counter-rotating shafts fail on us. Of course that just makes the film go blank. Let's just start chopping films up.
If there was an insurmountable problem that couldn't be solved, or if you were sort of rained out, well, people would get passes and they'd show the movie the following evening. I think people in those days had a little more patience. You couldn't call it movie rage. No. I do know a lot of stories, but some of these people are still very much alive today, so where will these sleeping dogs lie?
I know there's a lot of babies conceived in the back steps here. I don't want to go into that.
To top it all off, we're right in the flight path, so at any moment a big jet can go roaring over your head, and people just go, what is that? Their speakers are blowing or something, and then whoosh. And then of course you get all that backlash, so everyone's like whoosh. It's been such a meeting place. It's a social hub of Broome. It has been since it was built in 1916, and it still continues to do that.